All right, so uh, for this deep dive, you guys have really thrown us a curveball. I mean, we've got a business article on IKEA, a scientific paper on deep sea anglerfish mating, and
Yeah.
wait for it,
Okay.
queen lyrics. Like, I'm seriously wondering if you're messing with us here.
Well, on the surface, it does seem like a rather eclectic mix, but the joy of a deep dive is uncovering those unexpected connections. There's always something fascinating kind of lurking beneath the surface.
Yeah, I'll bite.
Duh.
But you're gonna have to work some serious magic here to connect Swedish furniture, creepy deep sea creatures, and a rock band that's been around since before I was born. So, dear listener, buckle up.
All right.
This is gonna be a wild ride.
Let's do it.
Let's start with what I know. IKEA. Um, their founder Ingvar Kamprad is a fascinating character. I mean, the guy started his business career at 5 years old, selling matches door to door.
Wow! 5 years old!
5 years old. I mean,
That
what?
is incredible.
I know. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's a classic tale of entrepreneurial spirit. What's striking is that he recognized people needing matches and found a way to fill it even at such a young age.
Talk about starting young.
Yeah,
And get this, he used the money he got for good grades to start IKEA when he was just 17.
oh, wow.
17. I was barely figuring out how to do laundry back then.
And consider the added layer of complexity. Camprod was dyslexic, a significant challenge in those days, yet he turned it into a driving force. It speaks to his resilience.
He was clearly a driven individual.
Hmm.
The article also mentioned that the iconic flat pack design wasn't some grand vision. It was born out of necessity. They were struggling with shipping costs, and bam, flat pack furniture was born.
Necessity is the mother of invention indeed. And what an invention it was. Flat pack furniture revolutionized the industry, making stylish furniture accessible to the masses, which connects directly to their business model and global success, wouldn't you say?
Totally affordable style for everyone. Okay, so we've got the entrepreneur, the innovation, and the global impact. I'm starting to see a pattern here, maybe. But where do anglerfish fit into all of this?
Well, let's dive into the deep end, shall we? This scientific paper focuses on their mating rituals. It's a rather extreme example of adaptation. Imagine the vast, dark depths of the ocean. Finding a mate is a monumental task.
Okay, so I'm picturing a pitch black void,
Yeah.
and these anglerfish are just bumping around hoping to find love.
Essentially. So male anglerfish have evolved to become, well, let's just say they make some serious sacrifices in the name of love. They basically fuse themselves to the females becoming living sperm-producing attachments.
Whoa, hold on. They fuse themselves? Like permanently. That's a bit creepy.
Yeah.
Definitely not something you see at IKEA, though maybe their some assembling required tagline takes on a whole new meaning now.
Perhaps. But jokes aside, it highlights a key theme: survival. The anglerfish have adapted in a truly bizarre way to ensure their genes are passed on. It's a high-stakes game of survival down there.
Okay, survival adaptation, pushing boundaries, those themes are starting to pop up in all three sources. But where does Queen come in? Is Bohemian Rhapsody about a lovesick anglerfish searching for its mate in a vast ocean?
Not quite. But there is a connection. Think about those lyrics you mentioned. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? The anglerfish situation certainly blurs those lines, wouldn't you say?
True. I mean, fusing yourself to your mate. That's straight out of science fiction. Maybe Queen was onto something with that whole fantasy versus reality thing.
And both Queen and IKEA achieved global success by breaking the mold. Queen defied genre conventions with their music. IKEA revolutionized furniture design and retail.
Okay, I'm seeing the parallels, but I still feel like we're trying to fit square pegs into round holes here.
Hmm.
How does all of this relate to our listener and their world? They're probably just as confused as I am.
Perhaps that's the point. Maybe the lesson here isn't about finding a perfect, neatly packaged answer. Maybe it's about embracing the ambiguity, the contradictions, and the unexpected connections that life throws our way. After all, isn't that what a deep dive is all about?
You're definitely making me think, okay, I'm willing to go down this rabbit hole a little further. Let's see if we can untangle this web of connections and maybe find some meaning in all this delightful chaos. What's next on our agenda?
Well, you mentioned Ingvar Kamprad's frugality even after becoming a billionaire. He drove the same Volvo for 20 years and always flew economy. What do you make of that?
Good point. It's certainly not the image we typically associate with billionaires. Maybe it speaks to a deeper commitment to his company's mission of affordability. Or maybe you just really love that Volvo.
What's fascinating is how it challenges our assumptions about success. Does frugality play a role, or is it purely about the entrepreneurial spirit, the drive to disrupt an industry as he did with flat pack furniture?
It's definitely making me question what drives people like that. Is it passion? Is it a desire to make a difference? Or maybe a little bit of both? And how does that tie into the anglerfish or queen? I'm drawing a blank here.
Well, let's shift gears and delve deeper into that IKEA article. You mentioned their global expansion strategy. What stood out to you there?
Well, it's fascinating how they adapted their approach to different cultures. Like, they had to literally redesign their furniture for smaller Japanese homes.
It's a prime example of what we discussed earlier, adaptation. They recognized that a one-size-fits-all approach wouldn't work on a global scale. They had to understand and cater to diverse needs and preferences.
Right. It's like they took the concept of flat pack furniture and applied it to their entire business model. They have this basic framework, affordable, stylish furniture, and they can adapt it to fit any market. But I still don't see how that ties into our deep-sea friends or a rock opera from the 70s.
Well, remember how we talked about the anglerfish making sacrifices for survival? They've given up certain things like their adaptive immunity to thrive in their unique environment.
Okay, so maybe there's a parallel there. IKEA had to let go of the idea of a single standardized design to succeed globally. They made a sacrifice, but it ultimately led to greater success.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that sometimes you have to let go of certain things to achieve something greater. It's a principle that applies across disciplines, wouldn't you say?
Maybe, but I'm still skeptical. Are we just forcing these connections? Our listener probably thinks we've gone completely off the rails by now.
Well, let's shift our focus to Bohemian Rhapsody for a moment. You mentioned it being a bit of a musical kaleidoscope, blending different genres and styles.
Yeah, it's like they threw rock opera and a dash of musical theater into a blender and hit puree. Somehow it created this iconic masterpiece. But how does that relate to our deep dive?
Consider this, IKEA's approach to global expansion is similar. They're taking different cultural influences, different design aesthetics, and blending them together to create something unique and appealing to diverse audiences. They're breaking down traditional boundaries, much like Queen did with their music.
Okay, I'll admit that's an interesting parallel, but it still feels like we're stretching things a bit. Are we reaching for connections that aren't really there?
Well, let's go back to the IKEA article for a moment.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about Camprad's frugality contrasting with the typical image of a billionaire. What if that frugality wasn't just a personal quirk, but a core value that shaped IKEA's business model?
You're saying it's not just about selling cheap furniture, but about a deeper philosophy of affordability and accessibility.
Exactly. It's about challenging the assumption that good design has to be expensive. It's about democratizing style and making it attainable for everyone.
Okay, I can see that.
No.
But how does the anglerfish fit into this narrative of democratizing style? Are they the fashion icons of the deep sea?
Perhaps not in the conventional sense. But remember, they've evolved to be incredibly efficient in their environment. They've stripped away everything that's non-essential, focusing solely on survival and reproduction.
So are you saying there's a connection between IKEA's minimalist design aesthetic and the anglerfish's stripped-down approach to survival?
It's an interesting parallel, isn't it? Both have achieved a certain level of success by focusing on what's truly essential, by eliminating the superfluous.
I'm starting to see a glimmer of a connection here, but it's still pretty hazy. And what about Bohemian Rhapsody? Where does that fit into this whole efficiency and minimalism thing?
We'll consider the song's impact. It's a 6-minute epic that somehow manages to be both complex and incredibly catchy. It's efficient in its storytelling, packing a lot of emotion and narrative into a relatively short time frame.
Okay, I can see that. But are we saying that a song about Galileo and Scaramouche is somehow connected to Swedish furniture and deep-sea fish? I'm still not buying it.
Perhaps the connection isn't so literal. Maybe it's about recognizing the power of unconventional approaches, of challenging the status quo, and finding success in unexpected ways.
So you're saying that IKEA, Anglerfish, and Bohemian Rhapsody are all examples of rule breakers who found success on their own terms?
It's a provocative thought, isn't it? And perhaps that's the point of this entire exercise, to push us beyond our comfort zones, to make us question our assumptions, and to look for connections in the most unlikely places.
Okay, you've almost convinced me. But I'm still not sure I fully understand the takeaway message here. What are we supposed to learn from all of this?
Perhaps that's for our listener to decide. We've provided the pieces of the puzzle, but ultimately it's up to them to assemble it in a way that makes sense to them.
You're right. Maybe there isn't one definitive answer. Maybe the beauty of a deep dive lies in the journey itself, the exploration of ideas, the unexpected twists and turns, and the realization that even the most seemingly unrelated things can be connected in some way.
Well said, well said. But before we get too philosophical, let's dive back into those sources. You mentioned that the IKEA article discussed their adaptation to different cultural preferences. Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So one example that really stuck out to me was how they had to completely rethink their approach when they expanded into Japanese homes are notoriously small.
Right.
So their typical furniture just wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
So they had to like literally redesign everything to make it work for that market. Smaller sofas, compact storage solutions, things like that.
It's fascinating how they didn't just try to force their existing products onto a new market. They recognized the need to adapt, and they were willing to put in the work to make it happen.
Exactly. It's like they took that whole flat pack concept and applied it to their entire business model.
Hmm.
They have this basic framework, affordable, stylish furniture, and then they can kind of like tweak it and adjust it to fit any market. It's pretty genius when you think about it.
It speaks to their understanding of the global landscape. The world is becoming increasingly interconnected, but that doesn't mean that everyone wants the same things.
Right. It's like globalization, but with a personal touch.
Exactly. And that brings us back to one of the key themes we've been discussing, adaptation. It's not just about survival, it's about thriving in a constantly changing world.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
But how does our anglerfish friend fit into all of this? He doesn't seem to be too adaptable. I mean, he's literally fused to his mate.
Well, let's not forget that the anglerfish's adaptation, however bizarre it may seem, has allowed it to survive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. The deep sea is a harsh place, dark, cold, and full of predators.
True.
So the anglerfish has had to develop some pretty unique strategies to make it work. And one of those strategies is, well, let's just say extreme commitment.
Yeah, no kidding. Talk about a long-term relationship.
But it's more than just a quirky mating ritual. It's about efficiency. It's about maximizing your chances of reproductive success in a very challenging environment.
So are you saying there's a parallel between the anglerfish's mating strategy and IKEA's global expansion?
Perhaps not a direct parallel, but there's a shared principle at play. Both the anglerfish and IKEA have found success by adapting to their specific environments.
Okay, I can see that. But I'm still struggling to connect the dots. Where does Bohemian Rhapsody fit into this whole adaptation and efficiency thing?
Well, let's consider the song itself. It's a 6-minute epic that seamlessly blends multiple genres: rock, opera, ballad, hard rock, you name it.
Right? It's like a musical Frankenstein's monster, but somehow it works.
And that's the point. It's a testament to the power of creativity and innovation. Queen took a risk, they broke the mold, and they created something truly unique. And in doing so, they achieved global success.
So you're saying there's a connection between IKEA's willingness to adapt to different markets, the anglerfish's extreme survival strategies, and Queen's genre-bending musical masterpiece.
It's all about finding what works for you in your specific context and being willing to push the boundaries of what's considered possible.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But I'm still not sure I fully grasp the takeaway message for our listeners. What are we trying to tell them?
Perhaps the message isn't something that can be neatly summed up in a single sentence.
Oh, great. So we've been talking for like an hour, and we still don't have a clear answer.
Patience, my friend. Sometimes the most valuable lessons are the ones that take time to unfold.
All right, I'll trust you on this one.
The ability to adapt is crucial in today's world, whether you're a global corporation or an individual navigating a constantly changing landscape.
Okay, I can see that. Being flexible, understanding your audience, tailoring your message, those are all valuable skills.
Yeah.
But where does that leave our anglerfish friend? He seems to be stuck in his ways literally.
Well, let's not forget that the anglerfish's extreme adaptation, however bizarre it may seem, has allowed it to thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth.
Yeah.
The deep sea is a harsh place, dark, cold, and full of predators. So the anglerfish has had to develop some pretty unique strategies to make it work. And one of those strategies is, well, let's just say extreme commitment.
Okay, so maybe there's a lesson there too. Focusing your energy on what you're truly good at, even if it means letting go of certain things. But how does that connect to Bohemian Rhapsody? Is it a song about finding your niche in the music world?
Perhaps not directly, but remember how we discussed the song structure, its genre bending, its unconventional approach to storytelling? It's a reminder that breaking the mold can lead to extraordinary results.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Adaptation, specialization, innovation. These themes seem to be weaving their way through all three sources. But I'm still struggling to see the big picture. What's the takeaway for our listener? What are we trying to say here?
Maybe the message isn't as straightforward as we'd like it to be. Perhaps it's more about asking the right questions than finding definitive answers.
You're saying the value of this deep dive lies in the process itself. The exploration, the debate, the struggle to make sense of it all.
Exactly. It's about challenging our assumptions, stretching our imaginations, and recognizing that sometimes the most unexpected connections can lead to the most profound insights.
Okay, I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
So what have we learned from this wild ride through the world of IKEA, Anglerfish, and Queen?
Well, we've seen that adaptation is key to survival and success, whether you're a global corporation or a deep-sea fish. We've explored the power of specialization, of focusing on your strengths and excelling in your niche. And we've been reminded that breaking the mold, challenging the status quo, can lead to extraordinary results.
You know, for a deep dive that started with a whole lot of confusion,
Yeah.
I'd say we managed to extract some pretty valuable insights. It's like we took a bunch of random ingredients and somehow whipped up a surprisingly delicious intellectual meal.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it? It's about embracing the unknown, venturing beyond our comfort zones, and discovering those unexpected connections that enrich our understanding of the world and ourselves.
Well said. So, dear listener, as you go forth into the world, remember to embrace the unexpected. Don't be afraid to challenge your assumptions, to explore new ideas, and to seek out those hidden connections that make life so fascinating. Who knows what you might discover?